What's up, killers? Holla! All right, here we are. 𝗚𝗍𝗀𝘀𝘁𝗹𝗲. Right on. WTV, yo. Siegfried, 619, Chad. Bobby in the house already. Kevin, geez, you guys are cranking today. Maybe I should do the solo roll thing, although I think it just shows my entire screen. There's Joey. Stand by. Let's bring my man in. What's up, Joey? Let's see if I can get you on the interwebs here. There we go. Yahtzee. You bringing in a beard, huh?
It's yeah, it's not intentional.
Okay.
I've surpassed the Daniel scruff here.
Yeah. Yeah. You're looking for the big win there. I think I need to make your video a little bit bigger. Fuck it. I'm not sure how to do this whole thing. Fellas, we got some news this week. What do you guys want to hit first? I got all kinds of stuff. Do you want to do the Daniel, you put the WTF Web3 thing.
I think it was cool to mention and give them like some promotion. It's a podcast by Chris and Sean from Blockjoy.
Yep.
They're doing like kind of like a web. They call it WTF Web3 podcast, and they're gonna talk about good projects on the crypto world because there's so much like poop projects around, but there are a lot of really good gems that needs to be promoted. So I think that's what they're gonna try to work. I think Nick, you were in the show already, right?
Yeah. Max and I were on yesterday or the day before. But I put a link to it. I put a link to their channel in the description. So if you guys want to check that out, WTF Web3, those guys are going to have a pretty cool set of access pieces. The other thing I wanted to hit early on this one, and then we can get into the rest of it, because sometimes when people rewatch this, they don't get to the end, and I think this first part is important, is two parts. One, there's kind of those little, digital fisticuffs between Capcom and BFG Neil in the Discord this week. And I think that led to some really good things. I think both sides got to kind of learn a little bit more about the other side. But I thought the coolest thing that came out of that was that Neil basically turned to the community for help with Trackpac. And he did this founder's Trackpac, like founder's Broen object locator thing, where you can buy a lifetime supply or lifetime tracking for a device. And I think it's $200, something like that. And I think that the first thing to put out there is that, look, you're spending $200 to support a company. You're not spending $200 to get a good deal, right? Like, this isn't something where like, oh my God, I'm getting some wicked deal. Like, no, you're supporting a company. And I think this is super cool because this is a chance at the very beginning of an industry to help a company out and to do this thing that I think is going to be more and more common, which is like crowdsourcing business. We saw the first parts of it with Kickstarter, where, with Kickstarter, you crowdsource a business. There's not a ton of friction there, but there's a little bit of friction. And I think we're going to see across this kind of decentralized ecosystem, these like crowdsource type things become more and more prevalent. And it's one of the coolest things that the kind of generations right now are doing, are saying like, yeah, I'll totally contribute to something. I'm not super worried about getting all of my money back, but I want to see something cool grow. So I put a link to that down in the description. I would suggest supporting it. I bought one of their tabs. I want Neil to do well. I want all companies in the helium space to do well. So that's kind of the first thing off the bat. Any thoughts on that from your guys' end?
I haven't decided between a tab and an oyster yet. I think the oyster makes sense because you can go slap it under a car or something like that. Thieves would never find it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was just like, I think that he put the tab out first. So I didn't even see the oyster, and I was like, all right, whatever he's doing, I'm supporting it. Like, take my money. Like, I want you to win. And then the oyster came out later. I'm like, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I won't.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I did the same. I may talk to him and ask to swap because it's a hard time for any business, right? Like, I don't think that goes into specific, like any market, any different business that you're building in this market. Doesn't necessarily need to be in crypto. It's pretty tough. It's kind of like you really need to believe it. I think I'm really proud of like Neil. I mean, like going back, I don't want to get into any drama or anything like that. But I mean, gets to the point that someone gets frustrated and then explodes. So you kind of need to try to understand both sides.
Yeah.
I think both sides are right and wrong in some aspects.
Yep.
But
100%.
at the end, I think those things can be pretty good to be out there. It is pretty rough to run a business. I can tell myself from 𝗪𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. It was a very different market, let's say 2 years ago or like 1.5 years ago than we are right now.
Yeah.
And like saying that, oh, your business is just not like bound to survive. It's also nothing really nice to say to anyone.
Yeah.
Because I know how much 𝗀𝗍 has been putting his blood and sweat and tears and everything he can on this project. Sometimes you just need like a little bit of luck, a little bit of right timing to make it happen.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, I bought my tab, which I'm probably gonna switch for the Oyster because I want to do like Joy said and put in the car. And I mean, DY or DP and whatever you want to say, it's a small community, and I guess at the end of the day, everybody should be supporting each other because
Yes.
we are in this together. If Trackpac survives or like does well, it's gonna help the AT&T price at the end, which is gonna help the whole thing, right? So
Yeah. And I think there's another
flag
thing,
me.
like, I think I've certainly become friends with 𝗀𝗍, who I never would have met outside of Helium. I've become friends with you guys, who I never would have met outside Helium. And as much as I love money and capitalism and how like business stuff works, I also think it's really cool to be able to support someone else and just support them and whatever their life goals. Like, as hippie as that sounds, like, fuck it. Yeah, I can afford $200, and if I never see it again, no big deal. And if it helps 𝗀𝗍 as part of something bigger, I want to see my friends win. And I think that's probably a reasonable reason to do that.
It's also like, it's a good deal for you. It's an awesome investment for 𝗀𝗍. Like, he gets, predictable, can go fund some servers. Like, you get access to this awesome dashboard that he's been putting together. Like,
Yeah. Everybody wins.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that's the first part to hit. I've got a little note here. Is the second part is I've also seen, we can talk about Nova's 1663 announcement, which is their announcement of their kind of giant IoT company, which seemed like it took people by surprise, but it's like that was what Capcom's been doing since 2013 when he wanted to do this with like getting a pet rock on the internet. That shouldn't be a surprise.
1 second.
Yep.
Is it 1663 or 1663, or there's like 1337 is like lead? Joey, do you know anything? How should we call it?
1663. So the whole story there is it's the address of their original office on Mission Street in San Francisco.
Okay. Now run down by
So it's like-
homeless people.
Cool, like yeah, right. Cool little like incubator name, right?
Yeah. Super cool.
Nice.
And they're going
Yeah.
after enterprise stuff. So I think of this as I'm seeing it in the chat, and I just saw Jamie Dubs in the chat. Jamie, we got to get you back on because you're on some of the first State of the Networks, and we haven't seen you in a while. Is I think of this like 1663 or 1663 and Trackpac as kind of like Big Brother, Little Brother. Like, and not in the sense of Big Brother surveillance, but like just two different players in the market doing two different things, where Nova's going to go after big enterprise companies and 𝗀𝗍's going to go to B2C, business to consumer, and they can help each other out. Like, I think that's where the whole thing ends up going, is all of us, kind of figure out how we work together. So, yeah, anything else that you guys were thinking on the 1663 thing?
I mean, I'm sure Joey
yeah.
has a lot of things.
It's Nova Labs running that show. They they're just like a Trackpac in this world, or anybody else, right? So they are going to build the projects that they are interested in chasing. They're not necessarily tied to the foundation. If I had to guess, and this is like 100% because like they haven't told me what it's about, but like we've heard these announcements of like Goodyear and things like that. I would imagine this organization is like really focused on making those big like enterprise level things successful and getting those across the line. But I can't speak for the leadership that's got that.
Yeah, I mean, that
focus.
makes sense. It's like, I don't think they're going into this thing to not have big projects. They're just like, all right, we built this thing together. Let's go do it.
Yeah.
Let's
I mean,
use it.
I'm very happy. I'm very excited about that announcement as well. It's like Nova Labs putting some more energy and trust on the IoT network that they built. Also, they have, let's say, enough money in the bank that they need to deploy to build things, right? That only the mobile maybe not enough. I mean, it happens. We like at Hotspot, we receive people asking for these kind of things on a daily basis. Like, oh, I have this idea. I need to deploy 50,000 sensors and this, but like, can you guys build it for us? That's not what we do, right? Of course, there are angles that we want to help, but I think having some trusted partner like this that can help like deploy like kind of like a turnkey solution for that
Yeah.
can really help the name and help grow the network again, right?
Yeah, totally. I think they're going to be like an icebreaker, just like smashing a path for the rest of us to follow, and there's going to be plenty to follow up on. And yeah, like I think it's
Yeah.
a super cool thing. What else did we have today? Let's check out the notes. We got all kinds of stuff. Daniel, can we talk about what you and I and Max are going to talk about, or is that still top secret? Like we're on for a call in an hour or something.
Oh, I
If
mean, I
it's
guess
top
we can
secret, it's
talk
top
about it.
secret. We'll keep it that way.
No, it's not that top secret. I mean, um, let me think. Max may kill me later. I mean, Joey has already know. We've been just brainstorming with the possibility of running our own LNS. I need to say
Mm-hmm.
it right, correct?
Yeah.
um, because it goes ties back into what we were saying about the 1663.
Yep.
That like we have a lot of experience in running services, running servers, infrastructure.
Yep.
Now that we have like we're growing the team, we're close to being done with fundraising finally. Like it's
Oof.
not been easy.
No.
Yeah, but it's getting. I would guess it's getting closer to the end. But anyway, so one of the things that we want to help is actually running our own LNS.
Yep.
We have like enough bandwidth in terms of engineering to do that, and we want to continue being very close to the Helium Foundation, to the Nova Labs, the Helium ecosystem, and it just seems natural for us to also have that and
Totally.
offer it as part. And because like man, we already offer like a pretty good like gateway management solution. Why don't we tie everything with the sensor so people can like, okay, you need to actually have your infrastructure. You want to deploy, let's say, a bunch of devices around some farm, but then you need to manage your hotspots as well, so you can just have all in one tool.
Yeah.
It's still quite early, but we're making progress quite fast. So
Right
yeah, I
on.
guess that's kind of coming up, and rock on.
And I heard, yeah, I'm psyched. I heard Joey is going to give us an absolute date that the console is going to be sunsetted, so we can all count on an in the can date.
Not yet. Yeah, I gotta get some of that stuff sorted out.
Okay, I'm still using console hell for leather, so hopefully, I'm sure
Yeah.
it'll be good. Let's see, what else? There's a ton of stuff in the chat. I actually have been paying attention to you guys and missing a little bit of the chat. Cool. All right, a bunch of Jamie Dub stuff. 1620, 619 OTA. Shockingly talking about pot. All right. So I guess the next big thing is this off-chain POC announcement. But actually, Joey, we got you just till 9:30. You had dropped
Yeah.
something in the chat about DC Fiat
Oh,
Onboard.
there's.
Walk me through what that is.
I mean, there was a lot of stuff last week. Not, at many.
eSIMs, yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. There's no service in this office, sadly.
Is that
So we got to
still
build more
open? I've
network.
got to go find a link to put a link on my phone.
So,
Or
well, yeah,
listen
let's
on my
touch on that first, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, basically, last week, Abai was like, "Hey, I think we can do this thing," and then Monday, he's like, "I did the thing," and this is
Love it. I love it. I love how
um,
that's how they work. Like still super
yeah.
cowboy.
No, there's just like there's so many cool things going on. But yeah, you basically what this is fully on chain, fully like data credit rewarded 5G data transfer. So I burned about 4 HNT to get a $20 eSIM. It's $10 eSIM for 20 gigabytes of data. So 50 cents a gigabyte, right? I scanned the QR code to do that burn transaction. The service like logged that, tracked it, and then returned back with another QR code that just loaded an eSIM straight into my phone, and joined joined the network, and immediately my data was moving over the Helium network instead of AT&T's network.
Oh, that's rad.
This is frankly subtly one of the biggest milestones that I think we've seen in the 5G side of things.
Yeah, you can use it.
We previously had those what were those SIMs that came with the 𝗱𝗏 units, but it wasn't really like you could use your 𝗱𝗏 unit as a tower ineffectively, but it wasn't rewarded data. It wasn't really tracked on chain. Like it was all just sort of like a side channel, right? So now the thing that we're seeing now is like fully on chain data. I can go hop between any of the gateways around me, and it works.
And is it still open, or did it close back up?
Never was open. So right now, just sort of like a beta, and I got to lean over on 𝗚𝗶𝘀𝘁 computer and scan a QR code to do it. So this is kind of going through final processes on our end, but we think we should be able to sort of chip that out.
Someone had sent me a link, and I was like, "Oh, cool! I'll do this tomorrow." Like I was super busy, and then when I went back to hit the link, it didn't work. I was like, "Shit! I missed the thing." And I thought they'd tweeted about it, and it was an open thing, but maybe not.
I don't think I'll link. There shouldn't be any links out there, so maybe it's something else. But,
No. It was for that, because I looked at it, I was like, "Oh, I'll get to this," and then I didn't.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that, especially because I don't live in the US. Every time I travel, I need to get like eSIM from some random provider anyway.
Yep.
So might as well get with Helium, something that I trust and I know where it's coming from, and I know I'm helping the ecosystem. Yeah. So hopefully next time I come to the US, I'll be able to use it.
Well, let's talk about the big picture story too, right? Like 5G is currently in the States. The one thing that I wanted to add that I wasn't sure about is like the handoff between CBRS and like AT&T. It's actually super smooth. I thought it was going to be like a little rocky, and like, when you leave your Wi-Fi network and it just can't do anything for a minute.
Yep.
But super smooth. So that was really exciting.
Oh, cool.
But you know the timing?
Yeah. The timing.
Like how long does it take to do the handoff? Because I remember this was like one of the biggest pain points of CBRS in the beginning.
I mean, it's been basically invisible to me. I'll look down and it's bars, or there's two little indicators on there for. You probably can't see any of that. But, You'll get it soon enough.
Link. Shit. Okay.
It wasn't a real link. I promise you, it wasn't there.
No, it was.
It's a scam.
Yeah. I'll tell you about it later.
Okay. Anyway,
looks super cool. Let's see. So,
well, what I wanted to touch on is like, Daniel's talking about like being able to visit the US and get this network, but like, big plan here. This is a global network. We'll be doing this with Wi-Fi offload, everything else, right? So, in the short story, this is a US based thing, but so was the Helium network when it first sort of kicked off, right? So this is going to take a couple of steps, and then we'll see this roll out globally. But then even bigger story is every time I watch a YouTube video or something, that's burning HNT out of our overall supply, right? And so this is to those whole sub-DAO things. This starts to establish that sub-DAO value of people actually using the network. And all of this funneling up to HNT is sort of that flywheel effect that we've been trying to drive at. So it's really exciting to see a really easy way to go burn $10, right? And then Nick opened up with this thing about Sphere and this onboarding fiat portal, like this slots right in there. So if you don't have HNT, instead of scanning that QR code to go burn your HNT, throw your credit card in there, leverage this integration that we've worked with Stripe to build and Sphere to build. And now you can burn data credits to any arbitrary address without ever actually touching the token. So this makes it available for truly anybody.
Yeah. Is this code going to be open source?
The Sphere stuff, I don't think so. So we worked with an outside company, and they built this like totally on their own. This wasn't like a grant thing or something. And they absolutely killed it. Like I one of these days I'll show off the engineering requirements doc that they put together. It's like the most detailed, like you could launch a rocket ship with this thing. And so they knocked this thing out of the park. And it's currently in a staging environment. Like you can go run transactions on testnet with, Solana, HNT burns and all of that. And so we'll eventually be hosting this as like a subdomain. So it'll be like dc.helium.com or something like that. You can just go get that. Yeah, nice upgrade, Dan.
Nice hat, Daniel.
So
Ah,
anyway,
boy.
that's a couple of the things this week. It's been an exciting one.
It's been an incredible week, and then last week we skipped the state of the network. I was out in Florida for the Helium mobile thing, and then had a meeting on Friday and couldn't do it. But pollen basically melted down last week, and I guess I don't know if they're continuing to melt down or they're fixing something or not this week. And the purpose of this is not to shit talk pollen, but I think the interesting thing is like, hey, we're going to see companies win and not win. We're going to see kind of triumph and tragedy, victory and defeat, like the whole 𝗪𝗁𝗁 thing, as we go through this piece. And the kind of glaring important thing out of that was like, hey, you got to take care of your community. If you don't take care of the community, things go sideways super fast.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's what, me and Max, we spend a lot of time talking about how important community is for any project.
Yep.
No project's gonna survive without a community, right? Like you need to be look at Helium without its community would be nothing, because they're the ones buying the hardware and climbing rooftops to deploy these things. So you really need to pay attention to those people. They are working as hard as you are to build stuff. You know?
Yeah, no, it was interesting just to watch that, and I'm actually super sorry for some of the folks who look like they're going to get burned by it. But it also looks like the pollen community, kind of what's left of it, is trying to do this DAO thing. That, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think there's a thing like, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. So I'll no comment that one. But I always hope everybody wins and everything works.
Have you heard any word if like that Nova deal, like trade in your hotspot, like has anyone done that?
I haven't heard of anyone doing it. The thing that I heard about that, I was in one of the Telegram channels. I think Max had pointed this out. Is that if you can do it, so you can take your unit off pollen, but you have to sign a waiver that says you won't sue pollen or you won't be part of a class action. So, like, there's a bunch of stuff.
That's
basically,
rough.
You give up a ton of rights if you want to move your radio off there, which tells me that
redline it and send it back to them.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's just upsetting because I know a lot of people that were spending a lot of time deploying, and it shouldn't be like a competition, like a fierce competition. Like each project has a different angle, or a slightly different angle, and I mean, poop happens.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say too much because I'll sound incredibly biased, but I do know there were a lot of like top tier, like high quality deployers that got kind of burned on that. So let's see. So one of the things that I started thinking of when this,
we'll go back to the 5G eSIM thing, because I know it came out, this beta or whatever it was, came out. They tested it. I'm assuming that means it's going to come out kind of for real at some point. And Frank had talked a little bit about it in Miami, maybe.
Well, so you might there. So the Miami thing is Helium Mobile, and that's the cellular plan where it uses Helium, but then if you don't have Helium, it falls back to T-Mo, which is awesome. Like, people should go sign up for that and like change their plan over, because it'll, blow most plans out of the water. The thing that we did is actually purely, for the most part, like a Helium Foundation initiative. It's not a business. It's like a proof of concept. Probably won't run it forever, but like you can get a 20 gig eSIM, and once it's done, it's like a dead eSIM.
That's right. That was the thing. I was like, it's dead. I'll have to change it, but I was just slow on it. I missed. I'll get the next one, but it made me think. So I'm going out. Just a little bit of transition to another topic. Is I've got this valley that I fly a paraglider over. The valley bottom is all flat farmland, and then it's surrounded by mountains. It's kind of this big bowl of mountains. And forever, or for as long as I've been involved in Helium and flying, I've looked down and been like, oh, that farm, or it turns out nursery, could benefit from having Helium sensors on it. And I've got, amateur jade hair is the thing that's up on the mountain. That was kind of the first hotspot that got some attention. It's like, that's the thing that's providing coverage for that valley. The whole thing is coming full circle. I reached out to the nursery a couple weeks ago and said, hey, can I deploy sensors on your property? I'll put in a weather station. I'll put in soil moisture sensors, like whatever you want. I'm just a weather and sensor enthusiast, and if you guys like it, then we can talk about doing business. But I'll put a bunch on there for free, just as like a fun thing. And I was expecting to be like, no, you sound like a crazy person. And the guy was like, yeah, sure, come on out, do whatever you want. And so I'm putting a weather station up. I think Dirk and I are putting a weather station up Sunday, and a bunch of soil moisture sensors for it's all like pots, plants in pots. So it's not, they don't grow anything in the ground as far as I can tell. So there's, God, 40, 50 acres of just like potted plants. And it's, I don't know, like their feeder nursery for somewhere else in San Diego. So kind of a cool thing. And he's like, oh yeah, I want a difference in temperature and soil moisture between the ground next to the pot and the pot itself. And a bunch of stuff we're talking about. But circling back to 5G, there's no cell coverage in that valley. But they do have, I think they have satellite internet. I don't know if it's Starlink or something else coming into kind of the trailer in the center of the property. And I thought, oh, what I can do is take the 5G unit that Keenan bought that I put downtown and shift it out to this valley, and then tell these people like, hey, if you guys want to basically like distribute out what you're getting on an eSIM, you could use Helium to take data, at least in the valley. And that starts to get kind of cool because I'm working with Nick over at Uplink Engine for this 𝗪𝗶𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗪, which is kind of the business name that I'm running all these sensors under. And that means that you could take, I think, Joe, you saw some of this stuff on Twitter. You could take the dashboard stuff that you see on 𝗪𝗶𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗪, which is, I think, start.𝗪𝗶𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗪.com or app.𝗪𝗶𝘁𝗀𝗀𝗪.com. So you can see that you have to log in. And they could be in the valley and looking at like, oh, here's what soil moisture is in quadrant 4. Here's what soil moisture is in quadrant 1. Like, here's where we need to add water. And they can't do that right now because they don't have coverage. So like it starts to be a thing where all these things start to kind of come together and build up. And I'm sure it's going to be janky and I'm going to break it and I'm going to, screw something up at first because that's always how it is. But I think we're seeing like the development of a new ecosystem growing up that's like, oh yeah, of course it runs on a blockchain. Why wouldn't it? That's the best way to do it.
It's so cool. I love this stuff. Like, I'm so excited. Your vernal pools project, this one, like, these are the problems we're out there trying to solve, and you're doing it in the right way, which is just like hitting people up and be like, what are your problems? And jumping in there because you've been studying sensors for the past like 3-4 years. So
yeah, trying to figure it out. Great. I was actually talking with someone the other day. Like, I don't think I saw sensors as well. No, I saw sensors being important kind of middle of late 2021. I was like, okay, all the consulting stuff for me is going to die. Like, no one's going to want to know about Helium because there's going to be too many miners on the network to make it as valuable as it was. Like, what's the next thing? And it was sensors, and it was like they've been such a pain in the ass to learn, but I've been super helped by a lot of the community kind of figuring them out. So
that's cool. What for your 5G thing that you were talking about there? What I might have missed this, but you said there's like what would your backhaul option be there?
I think it's the Starlink. I think there's a satellite. I'm going to go out today and look at it, and I'll see what it is. Okay. And I don't know if if there's like cable internet out there and they don't have it. I know that I've been out there before in the hills in the surrounding valley, and there's at least one WISP out there, which leads me to believe they don't have cable internet.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool because like folks working in situations like that, no coverage whatsoever. Like, now you can go say like, well, here's the eSIM thing. It'll work while you're at the job site, or go do Helium Mobile. It'll work everywhere. Switch over. Like, there's a bunch of options now.
Ah, okay. So those are two different things. Like the eSIM and Helium Mobile are different things. I hadn't understood that, even though you've said it like 4 times. It just connected.
It's going to be confusing. Yeah. So like we'll put, actually, that's probably a really good point. We should put some massive banner on there that says this is not this part's not the T-Mobile thing. Like, that's coming really soon. But this is just like how to try using the network.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry. I also didn't got that.
Everyone. Okay. There's clearly some.
With so with the eSIM, you don't get any T-Mobile handoff.
Well, so what's confusing is the T-Mobile thing's also an eSIM, but it's eSIM's just the technology to like load this stuff into your phone.
Exactly.
But the one that we're talking about,
completely different projects, or like similar but not the same.
Yeah, Foundation built this little thing where you can get 20 gigs of data. Once it's done, it's done. It's not a subscription thing. It's not a cell phone plan whatsoever. It's just like a data, offload option.
And only works on the Helium, like CBRS, right? As of now.
Yeah, but your phone can take two SIMs. Well, at least my phone can take two SIMs,
Yep.
and then it'll toggle between the two depending on whatever is available. So yeah.
Okay. No.
Cool.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. It's nice.
Well,
It's a good
I'm
start,
gonna
I'd say.
go. I'm gonna go feed this back to the team that like we have to make that really clear because we don't want to sabotage. Like people get confused about this.
Just don't want to be confusing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's see. WTV3.
I'm dropping.
You gotta go.
but
Cool.
it's-
All right,
yep,
Joey. Thanks a lot.
appreciate
man.
it.
Leats. Let's see if I can get Joey's thing off. There we go. Cool. Daniel, just you and me. So that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. I think, like you were saying, like if you say you guys do paragliding and then they land in this land,
Yeah.
and there's no coverage. So, like, there's no calling your wife to come pick you up or your mom.
No,
You need to figure out how to get away.
no. We
But
normally
it-
just use radios, but yeah, this would be super cool. It's like if I could put this in the middle, and then I'm gonna need backhaul. I don't know what that looks like, but I mean, I've this will sound terrible. I've wanted to have something to do with Starlink for a long time, and I've never needed it because I've got great internet. And now it's like, oh, I bet I could say to these guys like, hey, can I just put a little Starlink thing up on your site? And here's what I'll do with it is I'll provide helium, and if you guys want to use it, great. If not, I'll tell paragliders about it. But I think
Yeah, I
they'd be
mean,
like, yeah, do whatever you want.
but if you say that the guy already has some sort of like backhaul, no, you said that he doesn't have, or he does have.
He does, because when I was talking about putting up the weather station, we were kind of trying to place it on the site because it's a 40-acre site. And he's like, oh yeah, it's on the trailer with the satellite, and I can't remember if he said the Starlink antenna or the satellite antenna on it. So
Okay.
they
I
got
mean,
something.
yeah, for IoT should be easy, right? Just put like one antenna, one hotspot should cover everything. Can do a lot of cool projects. So it's gonna be kind of like an off-grid in terms of backhaul.
Yeah,
That can be pretty cool.
yeah,
And then if he has enough bandwidth, he can put the CBRS stuff, and I think that can help a lot of people.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
regardless, it's a really cool project.
yeah, yeah, it'll be super fun. I mean, I look at this. One of the cool things, there's a local guy here who is putting up off grids, and he bought a ton of equipment and overbought solar panels. And I'm like, oh, I could do this Starlink like completely off grid. So I could get this because he's like, hey, dude, do you want these solar panels? I'll just drop them off at the shop. And I didn't have a use for them, but I'm a pack rat, so I'm like, yeah, sure, drop them off. So it's like, oh, I could take the thing totally off grid power wise. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
do you know, I'm not sure what's the power consumption. It's 1 kilowatt an hour
ooh, I don't know.
ish, yeah.
I don't know,
So you just
but
need to have enough battery packs for that.
oh, Max is on
Um,
here, so Max heard you. Release your top secret news early. Could be Wisp
yeah.
connection to Australia. Yeah, it could be. I think there's like some point-to-point stuff up around the valley. But I'll go. I'm finding out, and when we get off this call, I'm driving out there to go talk to their land manager.
Send some pictures. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, exactly. That's
So
so cool. Yeah. I miss playing with sensors. I haven't had time to do any of this stuff.
yeah,
Like
dude.
I think it was in your Discord that I was browsing some of my old videos when I was working
Yeah.
at Balena, just like
Yeah. The
building
whole soil
shit.
moisture sensor thing. You're like, oh yeah, I did that 4 years ago. I was like, oh great.
Yeah, it's fun stuff.
So that's
Well,
super cool. Yeah, that's another thing. So this is, I don't think this is that secret, is that Gristle King is going to continue doing this kind of stuff where it's like sensor work and sharing the educational piece. And then I'm building up, got two other companies. One is Golden Hawks. So working with Max, actually it's Gold Hawks and Associates, working with Max Gold over at People Antenna, or formerly People Antenna. And we're doing a bunch of consulting for these smaller companies that are kind of following in the footsteps of Helium, and that's super fun. So that's kind of one angle that I'm seeing. Oh, that's what I'll do. And then the other is this Medio Scientific thing, where like I'm going to build probably a tiny little sensor business. Maybe it'll get a lot bigger. And this like thing with the valley is one of the first pieces. The vernal pools is the other, and that is in conjunction with the Uplink engine, Nick Huff, which is the guy who started Helium Vision. Um, yeah, and he's
that is
built this
super
thing where
cool.
it's like, oh, you can just, because it's the same thing. You and Max know this, is that you already have the knowledge to do this stuff. Like, why not use the same knowledge somewhere else?
Exactly. Yeah, we should talk to him as well. Just brainstorm some ideas. 'Cause there's so many cool things to be built in this world. In the IoT side of things, forget about the mobile side of things, right?
Yeah,
Um, that we're trying to, in a way, like for example, working on the LNS side of things will help me personally go back into more like the sensor side of things, doing some prototypes, playing around with things, and going back to do what I really like to do. Now it's like I do this on the weekends because it's like hobby when I'm not coding.
Yeah.
Um, you know.
Yeah. The sensors have been super fun. I'm seeing folks in the chat actually looks like they have data on the Starlink stuff. So Chad says using 52 watts for 2 radios. Starlink can draw 150 watts or more. Okay, so it's pretty significant what it pulls.
Yeah, 150. I mean, yeah, you need quite some batteries there, especially in winter, like Dustin was saying. Because I remember there's this thing that once if you're in like a very very cold weather,
Mm-hmm.
it increases the power to try to melt the snow around it or clear the
That's right. Yeah,
snow from.
we don't have
So
snow
we
in
need.
San Diego, Daniel. We don't do snow.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we don't. There's no where I am right now as well, right? Here.
Yeah. Oh, it looks pretty nice. Dang, buddy. That's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I mean, in Brazil right now in summer, it's a bit cloudy today, but it usually has been pretty sunny here.
well, that's right.
I
Not
mean,
Southern
one thing,
Hemisphere. It's summer.
yeah, it's summer here. I'm like chasing summer now.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to go back to Europe like in a month or so. Also, another thing to ask the community, like if anyone's going to the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona at the end of the month, it's like one of the biggest like telco conferences in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things regarding IoT there as well, but it's mostly focused on telecom. I know that Helium, I think, not at least the Nova Labs guys, I think they're going to be there. I think Rack's going to be showing some like sensor stuff. It's going to be pretty cool. We also going to attend, I think it's from the 27th into the 2nd of like February and March.
Guillermo says he's going to be there. Is that how you say his name? Guilherme? Guillermo?
Guilherme Camilo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guilherme. Okay. Guilherme.
Exactly.
Guilherme. All right. I'll do my
Guilherme.
best. GC.
Yeah.
We'll go with GC.
This is, yeah, it's cool. Jamie, Portugal, Brazil train. Yeah. That's where it is, man.
Yeah.
It's
Daniel's got
chasing
an open
summer,
invite. Go down
chasing
and
the
visit
beach.
him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, anywhere, if you guys come to Portugal, when I'm there, come to Brazil, when I'm there, I would love to just meet up, talk about geeky things and grab beers, no matter where. I mean, yeah. I
Let's
was
see.
open to chat.
And I think I asked this guy last time. There's a dude on here with the candle of Great Gate Holder, and I think I asked him if that's from a novel about this like Danny the Gate Mage. I'm a total like sci-fi fantasy nerd, and I just read that recently, and it seems like it lines up. Let's see what else happened the last 2 weeks. What's going on with Hotspotty? Like, what are you guys seeing with folks? Are folks using it, or they're not using it a bunch? Like, where are you guys kind of going with that?
So it is funny because I can clearly see like the amount of new people coming to Hotspotty based on the price.
Yep.
Even going from like $2 to $3. When there's like a jump, there's a lot of people like, oh, Helium, and then they start getting to that, and then the price drops and people lose excitement.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I mean, on our engineering side of things, like I mentioned before, like we're still like on the fundraising fund train.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that development has stopped. We are getting very close what we call Hotspotty V3, which is redesigning the whole backend to be blockchain agnostic. So with that, will enable us to add all the projects like, I don't know, HiveMapper, XNet, or any other project we want to display on Hotspotty.
Yep.
So that's something that it's been pretty cool. It's been quite like a long time because there was a lot of redesign and rethink, because when we started Hotspotty, there was nothing other than Helium IoT. So our code base was very like focused on that.
Yep.
So we made like more like a framework side of things. Another project that we've been poking around is the dApps, which is there's this very famous website called dApps. It's like dApps.com, which is basically like a dashboard that you can analyze all the DeFi protocols, decide which you want to invest, etc. So I mean, you can enter in dApps.com, but it's a placeholder project. But we're thinking about building this kind of like a platform that we can explore all the DPIN, TPIN projects and
Yeah.
then see which one do you want to get involved with, learn more about them, kind of being like this index of everything. So there's another way that we can help like people get informed about the space, because there was Helium, and then there was Pollen, and then you weren't at the break point, but you see how many new projects are coming up every day. So it's sometimes even hard to realize which ones are good or bad. Now we're gonna start getting to that point, right? That like kind of like DeFi a few years ago.
I think we're
There's
there.
some weird. Yeah, exactly. It's starting, because there's a lot of good projects, but there's a lot of ones that you need to be careful. There's some that they're just trying to take the advantage of this whole DY craze and then try to build something that looks very copying others and trying
Yeah.
to make a few bucks. So
Oh, so
just gotta be careful.
are you guys going to do like a deep in dashboard? So everything, or is it just going to be DY stuff or unknown?
It's gonna be deep in. We believe that we want to focus on decentralized infrastructure,
Yep.
because that's like I personally I really like the name DY, but it's wireless,
It's
so
limiting. Yeah. Sure. Sure.
it's limiting. Like for example, React Networks, I think it's a really nice project. Hive Mapper, I think is pretty cool. They're very different, distinct areas of infrastructure, but they are all running on blockchain, and all of them would be nice to have like one place that you can learn more about them. It's also even getting hard to follow up with new projects, right? Because like, oh, there's this project that's been running for a few months, and then like, oh wait, why haven't I saw this before? Like for example, Things IX, I think is an
Yep.
interesting one that I've been checking.
It's the one that
There's
Tim
other
started up
ones,
at Long AP, I think.
Long AP
Yep.
exactly. And I mean, I wish all the projects like well, like I hope everybody succeeds, because it then helps the whole ecosystem.
Sure.
Um, I just hope people don't try to rug each other like Poland did, kind of. I mean,
Sure.
I'm not. Luckily, I wasn't really invested in Poland in terms of like being outside of the US. I could not deploy a hotspot.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we mentioned, right? Community, it's what makes the project and not the project itself.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep. Totally. I
so
see Jamie in the chat going with is saying deep in is emerged. I think so. Here's the thing, Jamie, is Max and Max Gold, not Max Goosens, talk about this a bunch. Is what's going to win, and we think deep in is going to win because why is it Max? The Masari guys coined it, and it's like this big marketing battle. Like it doesn't actually matter if it's called tip in or deep in or POPW or 𝗱𝗲 or whatever. Like it's just this big marketing battle to call it something. And I'm guessing because that guy's got as much reach as anyone and probably more reach than most, the deep in thing is gonna win.
yeah, I mean exactly. Dip in means the same thing. DY is the only one that's more focused on like wireless data transfer.
Yep.
Um,
I know the
but yeah,
borderless guys have
whatever.
been pushing super hard for 𝗱𝗲, but I haven't seen that recently. There's like a bunch of noise on Twitter a couple weeks ago. It's like, what's the best? What's gonna win? But I think it's gonna be deep in.
Yeah, I mean, again, right? It's whatever the people decide to use.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
we're gonna see a bunch of like t-shirts like I'm deep in, deep in. I'm sure we're gonna see that kind of stuff. So,
yeah,
um,
exactly.
oh, going back, so I talked a little bit of like 𝗪𝗀 King and Medio Scientific and Golden Hawks. Is one of the things going back to the sensor thing is I think 𝗪𝗀 King is going to develop a sensor a lot like this. I've got this sensor right here, the soil moisture thing. Let me dry it off. It's been sitting in water. This guy right here. Will it focus on that if my face is in there? No, maybe not. But whatever. This is a little soil moisture sensor. But the sketch that we have for it, the Arduino sketch, I guess, takes up like 99% or 98% of its memory. And the thing's kind of a pain in the ass to use. Like, it works. Don't make no mistake about it. It works eventually, but it's kind of a pain in the ass to use. And it's like, oh, could I, and I'm sure I can because I can do anything, could I create a sensor that is like custom for what I want, which is wind direction, wind speed, temperature, soil, like a bunch of kind of environmental things, and make a 𝗪𝗀 King branded sensor, or maybe it'll be a Medio Scientific branded sensor, and sell it and use it and buy and get enough volume to be like, oh yeah, I want 1,000 of these units, and they're useful for me. And because it'll do air quality as well, I think there's some opportunity to do some government work, because Gov always wants to know kind of what the air quality is. And in particular, in the valley that I'm deploying in, there's a sand mine upwind of it, and these people have been fighting this sand mine thing for a long time and saying that the air quality is bad. And it's like, oh, well, you can just put one of these up, and then you can track and see what it actually is. So
That is pretty cool. Go for
yeah,
it.
it's I think like that's one of the bigger projects that will get done this year, and I've been working with 𝗪𝗶𝘀𝘁 on that, and that's been super fun just to like go down and I think Neil introduced us to this guy Sergio, and he's like, oh yeah, I'll totally work on that. But it's
Yeah,
like a sensor
it's
design. Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna go into the manufacturing side of the game now as well.
Yeah. Yep. And I think,
That's
to be totally transparent, I think it's reasonable to take the audience that I've got and like take you guys along for the ride and be like, yeah, this is what it's like to build a business. Like, and I'll be transparent about pretty much everything, unless it's, personal information. And just like, hey, if you want to copy this, go for it. Like to think that someone's going to copy it and compete, it's like, oh yeah, it's like two guys going down to the ocean with a bucket and seeing
I
who
mean
can get
that's
more
the
water.
yeah, that's the Adafruit's model. Adafruit, they have all they sell the hardware, but everything that they manufacture, it's open source. You know,
Yeah.
it's great because you can use these things for like smaller quantities, but then if you're gonna make 1 billion devices, you're not gonna buy from like a small. They're gonna not gonna buy from you. They're probably gonna make their own hardware if they got to that scale. But up to that point, they're just gonna buy from you because it makes no sense to like manufacture 10 devices. They can just buy from you. Like
Yeah. Like
so,
there's some super cool stuff there. Let's see. Bidmoon put in a super chat. Thanks, dog. Brief recap on what happened to Pollen. We hit it a little earlier. Thank you for the super chat, A1. But I don't. Man, I'm not sure that. I mean, basically, what Pollen did was they said, I think this is in very big picture terms. Internally, their team was like, hey, we tried this crypto thing. It didn't work. We're going to go do something else, and we'll try and leave as much of it up as possible, but make it kind of unusable so that it dies quietly. That's kind of my interpretation of what they did. And I think they misunderstood how not violently, how much the community
strong.
would react.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's a bunch of details in there. There's some kind of crazy shit that they did where there's a real question on when they knew when they were going to kill it. And if they knew kind of prior to the time they sold all the bumblebees, the BB drop in Black Friday, then it starts to look a lot worse for them. Like, you guys knew this was going to die and you sold all this shit anyway to offload your hardware costs. I think if that comes out and is true, then people will be mad about it. But if not, I mean, I think they're just like a group of people who tried something and it didn't work, and they had the tiger by the tail, and now they're just like, oh man, we didn't mean to grab a tiger. Like, we just wanted to take the dog for a walk.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to. Also, I don't want to get into that too much because I'm just like listening and taking
yeah,
my own conclusions. So
yeah. And hopefully this doesn't have too much of my personal spin on it. It's just like, this is kind of what I see happening.
yeah,
Yeah, but on like the positive kind of growth side is that all the sensor stuff, like, dude, it's bananas how much I'm learning, and also how much is possible in this world. Like, when I'm going out to this place today, at first I was like, oh, I'll just bring a soil moisture sensor, and Seed had sent me out a SenseCap weather station, the S2120, and that's what I'm putting up there. I was like, I'll put out a weather station and a couple soil moisture sensors. And I was like, well, I got the people counters. I got like these other things. I got this GPS tracker, and maybe that's where I'll use the Trackpac thing. Is like, you guys want to track your heavy equipment as it moves around, maybe between properties, because these guys have multiple properties around San Diego. And all of a sudden, it's like you stumble into a business where I just went in there to have kind of fun and put sensors in the ground. And now it's like, oh no, like maybe they want to buy a bunch of stuff. And they're like, yeah, we see this as useful.
exactly. I mean, it's. I don't know if there's that saying. I don't know if I can say. Can I curse here?
Yeah,
Or is I
yeah,
don't know
fuck
if I
it, go
already
for it.
did. Because there's a very famous like important chart that we learn in engineering and I guess in life that is like a linear chart that's saying fuck around and find out.
Yeah,
Um, so that's very important, I think, in life. Like, you got to do it to find out what is possible. Otherwise, you're not never gonna find out. So
Yeah.
just like by deploying these things, you learn Helium from playing around with Helium. I learned you, I met you, you met me, and then like this whole ecosystem came from that. If it wasn't for you trying to find ways to do the paragliding thing, your life probably would be very different. Same thing for
Yeah.
me, right? If I haven't played around with Helium in the beginning, like I don't know what I'll be doing now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Fuck around and find out. I like it. I like it. All right, there's a bunch of shit on pollen. Man, guys, I don't know a ton about what happened. I didn't pay a ton of attention to that whole thing, so I think comments I've got are what's out there. I hope everything works out, but yeah, there it is.
Yeah. Anthony was asking about the hotspot 5G.
Yep.
We're working on it. Like that's part of like the big push they're doing now with hotspot 3, which
Yep.
is the hotspot 1 was just like the very plain commission payments. Hotspot 2, what we have right now, the 3 is the multi-protocol. But right now we're basically dependent on Nova Labs. So we've done as much as we could in terms of code. Now, just I know that the Nova Labs team has been working pretty hard to try to get their massive backlog up and running. So we're working closely with them. As soon as they have something, we're gonna add that to Hotspot as well. So it's not that things are not moving.
It's coming. Yeah. It's coming.
Hashtag soon.
Yeah, it's always soon. Let's see. There's some stuff. Dave at Helium Analytics, the grant money for Helium Analytics is running out, I think, in 12 days or something. It's like the 15th or the 10th, like that. So heliumanalytics.io, I think, will go away, which is a bummer. I've tried to keep it going, but it sounds like and you understand this better than I do, Daniel, but like basically like the raw information is not going to be available much longer. Is that kind of right for this ETL?
Yeah, exactly. That's something that we've been like bothering the Helium Foundation a lot in the past.
Yep.
Also Nova Labs. It's because I think some other people also mentioned in the chat, because the way that the Solana migration is going to happen is that all the sorry, there's a little fly here. All the like financial side of things is going to go to Solana, which is going to be like a public ledger that we can just track and just query the data. But then proof of coverage, like all the POC stuff, which is like the witnesses, all the things that we show, a lot of things that we show in Hotspot, actually, it's not gonna be available publicly on a distributed ledger like it's right now.
Yep.
So we need to work together with the Helium Foundation, with the Nova Labs to actually have access to this data. I believe that they are working to have this data somehow available, but it's not going to be as easy as it was before. And also it's going to require like a massive rework on everyone's side. Like we're already like working on it, but it's going to require like a lot of, because we basically get all the information from the hotspots from like a database, and then we have our own private API that does all the calculations on our end. And a lot of these things are going to have to be rebuilt with the Solana. And I mean, that goes to that flag that people's like, okay, now it's not as open anymore, or it's not as like public available for people to track and verify.
Yeah.
But on going back to like the website,
go ahead.
Yeah, there's not gonna be like a easy way for now. I'm sure they're gonna have to do it eventually, and I hope they do it soon. But it's still gonna require a lot of extra work for everyone involved.
Rad. Yeah. I mean, not rad that it's going to require extra work, but just like the whole thing is evolving. We expect things to change and break. And I think Travis had a question like, is there a way to keep a public ETL up? It sounds like there isn't a way. At least there's not a way right now.
Yeah, the ETL the way it is right now is just going to stop when they move completely off chain. They're trying to like, okay, save all that data into like Amazon S3 bucket that you can download. It's not going to be there won't be the sense. I mean, I'm not 100% sure there, but I can imagine that there will not be blocks. Like right now, you look at the blockchain, and then you can say like, oh, this block, those these transactions. So because the financial world is going to be on one side, and the like proof of coverage is going to be on the other side, it's not going to have like the sense of blocks. I think it's going to be. I mean, everything that I'm saying right now it's coming from my head. I'm not sure. It wasn't like announced anywhere, but I think they're probably going to use timestamp, and things are just going to happen, and they're going to log in the database as it happened with the timestamp. And it's gonna be probably like Pauline was doing, that like every X hours or 12 hours or like 24 hours, they're gonna have a lump sum of all this data and just
Okay.
provide to the community to do so. I would guess if that would be the case, the data on hotspot will be updated like daily, for example.
Cool. All right, so a little bit unknown, a little bit known. Travis had also put something in here earlier about the sensor questions. So there used to be Helium hacks. What was it? A Helium hacks happy hour was a thing that Travis ran when he was working for Nova. He's not working for Nova anymore, and there's a bunch of us in the kind of sensor community that were like, "Hey, we want to keep that thing going." So Travis and I have been doing that. Was it Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Travis Pacific? All the information is in the GristleKing server. So if you have sensor questions, if you want to kind of rejoin that kind of community, the Helium Hacks Happy Hour folks, there's now a call that's on Jitsi that you can jump in and get help on. Travis and I have been like jumping on there. He's been walking me through stuff. Jason, Great Hat Guy, has been on there walking me through things. It's been extraordinarily useful for me. So I'm at the same time like hesitant to open up because it's been so good for me, but also like, of course I got to open up. We got to make sure everybody learns together. But it's been nice to get
That's
on there
awesome.
like, dude, this thing's broken. How do I fix it? And they're like, oh yeah, do this thing. Like change the dev UI. You got to generate your own. It doesn't work the other way. Like whatever it is. So
That's super cool. I mean, a huge like kudos for Adafruit. I already spoke about them before.
Yep.
I don't know if you know them, Lady Adaf, like in New York. They have a lot of YouTube shows that happen every week as well. Like there is one called like Ask an Engineer, that they talk about a lot of like hardware stuff.
oh cool. Okay.
There's like also show and tell that people are like, oh, I bought this sensor from Adafruit and building these things. So also nice to promote whatever people are building.
Yep.
So yeah, these are all cool things that would deserve to be promoted. And it's basically education, right? And like promoting this whole hardware thing.
Sharing that information. There's some sensor, I think Dirk found it, that's an Adafruit sensor, that's an air quality sensor. In fact, I'm sure if you look on their site, it's like the top one they're selling now. And maybe we'll do something with that. But yeah, it's just cool to learn about all these resources and see what's out there.
Yeah.
And figuring out how to ask the right questions.
Yeah, man. Fuck around and find out. That's what
right.
you have to do.
I like it. I like it. Cool. Well, I think that wraps it. We can probably kick this thing a little bit early. No, maybe I got one more thing. I just got a message from Joey that he got the coffee beans. So I'm buying this coffee roaster, and of course, Daniel, you're into this because you had a coffee shop. So buying this small little coffee roaster that's like a 600-gram roaster, so a little more than a pound of beans at a time. So kind of personal roasting stuff, not a company. But I found that I like roasting way more than I can't drink it fast enough. I drink like maybe 20, 15 grams of coffee a day, like not very much at all. But I like roasting. I was like, oh, I think what I'll do is I'm going to put up like a sign-up sheet on the GristleKing thing, and I'll just I'll roast this coffee and I'll just send it out to people who sign up. And if it becomes a thing where it's a pain in the ass and like it financially drains me, I'll start putting a dollar amount on it. But for the first couple bags, I'm like, I'm just going to send these out. So I put it on Twitter. I'm like, hey, anyone want these things? Like, I can't drink them fast enough because coffee is best like 3 days after it's roasted to 10 days after it's roasted. And then it gets progressively worse if you're a geek. Like, if you're me, you probably can't tell the difference. I just like roasting it.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Like the coffee is roasted. Depending on how we store them, but it could be like up to like 3 months. Yeah. Ground coffee is just like very short.
Yeah.
Where are you buying the green beans from?
Dude, so there's a guy named 𝗪𝗏, and in the coffee roasting world, he's a total god. And I bought some from him. There's a place called Sweet Maria's, and then I've got these ones shipping now. They are 𝗪𝗶𝘀𝗁 beans. And so most of the coffee that everyone listening to this has drank is either an Arabica, or a Robusta. Like there's only two beans that are basically like 99% of the world's coffee, 99.9%. And most of the Robusta is grown in Brazil. That's the stuff that goes into like Folgers and pre-ground coffee that you buy in the store. And then the Arabica is the stuff that's like high-end specialty coffee. And then there are 30 or 40 other varieties of beans that are difficult to grow, or they don't taste the same, or whatever it is. And 𝗪𝗶𝘀𝗁 is one of those. And I bought some of that, and it's super expensive. But that is like the next thing that I'll be roasting, and I'm so psyched because it's supposed to taste smoky. And my wife likes this smoky tea, and I always wanted some smoky coffee, and now I'm like, oh, I think I found it. So
Man, that's so cool. Yeah, yeah. I like who was saying there in chat like about dark roast, Gregory. I am a big fan of light roast. Uh,
yeah,
like
yeah,
I
it gets geeky fast. And here's WTV. I'm bummed out. I thought you guys were going to talk about Helium and the good and bad about off chain. Well, we did it for the first 57 minutes. We're talking coffee the last minute.
yeah, that's like something that I enjoy as well as a
Yeah,
different end. Yeah, yeah, man. I want to send me pictures of that roast, like those roasts we've been doing. I should do
yeah,
something like that once I have a house.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. We got to come up and roast with me. That'll be a cool thing to do.
yeah, next time in San Diego, let's do it.
Love it. Love it. All right, dude. Thanks for coming on today. Always good to get to hang out with you and to share what's going on with the crowd. I will see all you guys on the Gristle King server, or I will see you next week on YouTube. Thanks, Daniel. Rock and
Rock
roll.
on.
Leats.
Bye.